Hey everyone, Francesca Ragucci here. I'm checking in for Sudden Courage month 5, and let me tell you, I am procrastinating these videos more and more. And you'll learn a little bit why as I talk today. So just a small background. If you are new to this series and you want to watch it in order, which I encourage you to do so, go to the Sudden Courage playlist on my YouTube channel, Francesca Ragucci, and just start Sudden Courage 1. It's all in order. You'll see the videos. December, let's see if we can pull this up. Tattoo and tattoo. December 14th, 2019, I had a near-death experience, which is what caused me to get these tattoos on my hands. I was driving to gymnastics on a Saturday morning. The road was a bit slippery, and I was merging onto an exit in the road. I was driving and started putting my foot on the brake, pumping it along so I can slow down and continue onto the exit. And the car had other plans. I felt fear and total terror that day. As my car spun out of control, it went into the shoulder of the road, hit a hill, caught air, flipped upside down, and smashed onto the ground of the highway. And thankfully, I am alive and I am able to share my story and my journey of having post-traumatic stress disorder from that event. And I'm choosing to focus in on this one event because that's what caused me to seek help from a therapist and continue this series along. So, more on, let's say, that beginning story, that month later, 2 months, first week. Stop this video, go to Sudden Courage, watch the full playlist, and then come back, or you can just stay and hang out with me. Okay, so it's one of those videos where, you know, I feel like I'm gonna come on and I'm gonna be like, yeah, I'm all good, but I'm not. And it's now actually coming into 6 months, but I'm gonna call this the month 5 video. And I'm just gonna really tell you what I'm learning, my experiences, some symptoms that I'm having, and the healing process, which is just what I'm here to do, just share my healing process because it makes me feel good. And I'm also putting this together for either you who have post-traumatic stress disorder or complex post-traumatic stress disorder, which I have both. I have complex post-traumatic stress disorder and post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms from experiences that I've had in my life. So both of those experiences are intertwining as a result of my near-death experience in December. I'm also putting this video together for you who have a loved one or someone you know with PTSD or CPTSD who you can learn more about them through this video. I will say there are a lot of typical symptoms that when you Google PTSD right away, you see the typical stuff, and there are things that every article has. There are also other symptoms that I'm experiencing, which are rare. And so it's not always about going to Google when you have mental health disorder or physical disorder. It's also about seeking professional help from a therapist or whoever you choose to go to. I like to read articles as much as my body can handle, and I'll go into that in just a second, because it helps me learn about what's going on inside of me. Because as I'm learning with mental health, and this makes me so sad because it's really sad what people who have mental health disorders experience, let's say without a mental health disorder, or trauma, right? Or trauma which can cause mental health disorder, like what I'm experiencing. Then there are people in that line who have physical challenges that you're able to see as what I just explained. You can clearly pick out who those physical individuals are who need extra assistance from society or other people around them. But taking those people out of the line, you have the individuals who, let's say, do not have mental health disorder, and you have individuals who have mental health disorder. You can't tell the difference between the two. And that's the most eerie part of this experience, because it is so isolating and lonely. Because I can be out and I'm experiencing this when I, have a chaotic drive in my head. Maybe I look like a normal driver, but after 20 minutes on the highway, I'm having flashbacks and panicking, and my body starts to ache, and I honestly believe that I'm gonna die every time I drive on the highway, and the event is going to happen again. And it's so debilitating and overwhelming that when I get to the destination, I am exhausted, because it is as if my body experienced the initial event again, that initial near-death experience again, that by the time I get to the destination and I go to socialize or be around people, I look, quote unquote, like normal or someone without mental health disorder or trauma among a sea of potentially people who do not have the mental health trauma. And that's what makes this time and space of healing really hard, because they always say, and I'm saying they, whereas the public, maybe videos, I've heard this around, those keywords are seek help, ask for support. However, as someone who can now empathize with individuals who have trauma within their body that's lived with them for a while and have mental health disorders, it is not as easy as just tapping someone on the shoulder, even if they're your closest loved one, to say that I need help, or I am not the person who I used to be, or please give me support, is not that easy. That, quite frankly, is one of the harder parts of this trauma, because even just learning of what I've experienced or seen in other people, or in the, I keep saying the media, but that's a part of things too, or even online. It's even in my life, let's just say, with other people. Oftentimes the word anxiety or depression or trauma is a little bit more casualized in society, because you hear someone say, oh, I was so traumatized because they didn't get somewhere on time. Like, for example, oh, I was so traumatized because I didn't arrive on time, or I was so, I woke up with such anxiety because I was sweating all night. And so, like, just some things like that where it's like, are you really traumatized because you didn't get the right food that you ordered? Is that really that traumatic? So it's hard because a lot of times individuals overuse words that are associated with the mental health community. And when someone who has a mental health disorder, like me, comes out and says that I am experiencing trauma, and even though I may seem stable at times, there are times where I feel unstable and chaotic and just out of my mind, to be quite honest. And using those words, I feel depressed, I feel anxious, or I get anxiety when I drive, or this trauma lives within me. That is not me casualizing the words. That is me speaking truth to my real experience. So sometimes it's like I'm telling someone and just getting the vibes that they may not know as much that it is really real, or have a full understanding of how to even support someone who has mental health disorder, because it's hard to notice, or it's not physical as much, so you can't really point it out on their body, but it lives inside them. Like it does with me. All of my trauma lives inside of me. If I'm walking or running on the street, you can't really see anything, but I may have had a very bad dissociative episode where, one of the very extreme symptoms for me is I get so overwhelmed and I experience hypersensitivity and hyperarousal in my environments where, if a wind chime goes off the wrong way and I'm feeling more sensitive in that moment, I will jump. Or, if I hear the doorbell ring and I didn't expect it, I may run into the next room. Or, if the other day I drove into a car wash and I was terrified I was in the car while it was getting washed. And that was a terrifying experience for me. And I used to love going into car washes because I thought it was fun just to see the car getting washed. And so that was terrifying because I felt trapped in the car. And if I was going to die in that car, I would have not been able to get out and save myself because all of the soap was around me, and that's how it felt for me. And so these are things where that simple phrase of saying, just reach out, just ask for help, like it's not always as simple as like a PSA commercial, giving a hotline and telling you to just ask for help. It's different when I'm in my therapy sessions because I can really unload and really experience, and she's there to help me heal. That's her job. That's her purpose in my life, is to help me heal. And it's harder for other people. And that's a part of what I'm learning in therapy, is like, how do I get around family members or friends, or even when I'm out for the day and I'm not home in my comfort zone and I'm having an episode, which I've had before, how do I, how do I let other people know and be able to experience that with comfort? Because the other thing I'm learning is when I don't express, when I'm starting to get body aches or I get exhausted out of nowhere and want to go to sleep, which is freeze mode for me, I can't keep it in because it's going to get worse and I'm going to experience a lot of mood swings and heart pain, or just like feeling very angry or very sad or melancholy, because I will say the absolute worst of my experience happens when I'm alone, because my body knows, my body and my mind, so my physical body and my brain know that when I'm alone, I'm the safest because no one's around. So the worst of my experience is I am slightly overwhelmed, or I'm triggered somehow from some hyperarousal external event, a sound, someone saying a sentence, or even just feeling overwhelmed by socializing, because I get social anxiety and it's hard for me to be in social situations for a long time, and I get very exhausted from socializing. It's very exhausting right now because it's like I try to be normal in social situations, or I try to have that stability or maintain it. And when my body says, no, time to flare up and have a mood swing, or time to react to something or make a response that is, indifferent to the conversation, or just time to zone out, and just not be there and have those flashbacks or think you're in danger, it's gonna happen. So it's the hardest when I'm around other people and outside of my environment for a longer time, let's say longer than an hour, for example. And so the worst of the experience is when I'm alone and I'm feeling a little bit tired, or I'm really overwhelmed and uncomfortable, and I feel this eerie feeling within my body. It's like a tingle sensation, and as soon as that tingle sensation comes along, I know that there's no coming back from this, and I've been basically taken over by the experience within my body, and I just fall into, the best way for me to describe it is Inception, like the movie. I'm learning Inception is not a real word, it's just a movie. But in the movie, the guy, I think Leonardo DiCaprio, has PTSD, and what happens is he falls into alternative realities that he believes are real. And so I sleep and I have my full night's sleep, and when I get up in the morning or even during the day, I may get into the zone where I go to sleep and disassociate from this reality, and I fall into different realities, and I think everything is real because everything looks real because it mirrors what's going on in my life right now, or it's as if I'm continuing to be awake without actually falling asleep. There's no disconnection between, okay, this is a dream or this is reality. When I go to sleep, I understand that I'm dreaming. I know it's a dream. Even if I don't say it to myself, I have that instinctual feeling that I'm dreaming. Whereas when I'm disassociating and falling into multiple realities, I think I'm awake the whole time, and it's very alarming of an experience. It's exhausting to my body, and my entire being is just exhausted. It's one of those experiences where when I actually get up and I'm awake and I know that I'm back in this reality, and it could be 15 minutes or an hour and a half, I can't get up right away, and it takes me, if I had to give an estimate, it's probably anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes to actually move, because it is so exhausting. And it's basically my body and brain reliving the trauma, protecting me from this reality and what could happen, or just having such anxiety and fear of even living with what I have, post-traumatic stress disorder right now, that sometimes it's easier to escape and fall into multiple realities. And that's what my brain is thinking, which when that tingle sensation happens in the beginning, my consciousness is no longer, I can no longer consciously like be like, okay, I'm not going to fall into this because it's overtaken me already. It's like a wave of black, like we're taking over. And then a light switch goes off and I'm in a different mode at that time. And after those moments, it's really hard to continue living. It's really hard to continue in that day like nothing happened. A lot of times I feel a bit suspicious of what reality is, or I just feel exhausted, or it's as if I went through the entire day already and I'm on the second day. I mean, I've had, let's say, inception, multiple reality phases where I thought that I missed the entire month of May. I thought I slept through the whole month and it was June. Or I woke up, didn't really wake up. I fell into multiple realities and thought I was waking up every time because I kept coming out of the exact place where I fell asleep, basically. And I was checking my phone and I was making sure that I was in my house or my family was there. And the interesting part of that is I was asleep the whole time. So this is a symptom of post-traumatic stress disorder from a traumatic event that I am experiencing that is rare. So there are those typical symptoms, and there are also rare experiences that are unique to each person that you can't Google. Like I was saying in this video, this is one of those experiences where I can't just get on Google and research it, because to be honest, it's not really there. But it's within me enough, and it happens so many times. I mean, it's been, 5-6 months, and this is happening mostly every day, to be honest. I don't go a day without having one symptom. I probably have 1 to 3 episodes a day, whether it's just epic mood swings. Like there were weeks in May where I just filled up with aggression every day and just got more and more angry and rageful. And then there were days where I was just sad and depressed. And then there were just days where I felt melancholy or bleak. I was more emotionless those days and didn't really care. Or there were days where I was, full of, I call it euphoric joy. And so it's like I am stable within myself, but then I have these, one little thing will whirlwind me for the next week into something else. And so, as of this week, I'm feeling better as far as my moods go, that is. I'm feeling, I'm not as rageful this week. Not as bleak. I was more bleak last week and melancholy, but this week I'm probably just okay. I mean, I am happy, kind of, but I don't know. We'll see. It's hard to explain what's going on in that moment, because a lot of times I don't know until the week ends and I'm like, okay, last week I felt more bleak and melancholy. This week may have been more of a courageous week, where I have courageous weeks because I think, okay, I survived a near-death experience and this is my second life living, and I'm experiencing a lot of transformation in myself and the way I live, and even just how I dress or the way I, look and think and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah. This week is probably more just getting familiar with how do I live with this. I feel comfortable with having, no, I don't, I shouldn't say I feel comfortable with it, because I don't, because it's really out of control and overwhelming. But I will say that I feel comfortable with knowing what I have and what's going on in me, which is different than, oh, I feel comfortable with having these experiences, because I don't. But unfortunately, this is a different life that I'm living right now. And so this week is probably more, the moral of the week is probably more, how do I tell friends, family, people who interact with me for a longer period of time in my personal life, that if you're gonna be with me 4 hours in a row, I may not fully be there for 4 hours. I may drift in and out of conversation, or get a little bit moody, or want to go home, or get exhausted, or, not really empathize or sympathize with everything that you want me to, because I just don't have that ability a lot of times. Or I'll, make a response that may not be something that you were expecting, because my reality is very different than yours. And so I can be more blunt about things, or more, less empathetic, or less sympathetic, or just, be there but not be there. So it really depends on my experiences at the time. So I'm learning how to have others support me, and people who I feel comfortable with their supporting me, and learning how to be in places and not pretending like I'm a stable person when I may not be that day. And it's really not healthy for me or you who have mental health disorder to pretend like you don't have it, because it's gonna be worse for you. And that's happened to me a lot, where things and my experience has totally spiraled because I may have ignored signs and didn't respond, or didn't cope with it as well, using, some techniques, grounding techniques. And so this is going to be a lifestyle where, when a boyfriend is with me, or friends, or people who are just around me for long times, like over an hour, they'll need to know. And I will just take things one person and one situation at a time, because I am not comfortable with walking around, let's say, not expressing this, because the more I express to different people who, again, I feel comfortable with, are around me more, maybe around me for longer periods of time, I want to seek that support and feel comfortable with it from them in that time. So when I'm having a mood swing, or I'm not being as responsive, or, they're in the car with me and I'm panicking, thinking that I may die in the car, their responses aren't making things worse for me, and they can help to provide me a more supportive environment. And it's less about them, understanding, or really having gone through it themselves, but it's about, here's someone who may not know anything and be around me for a little bit longer for whatever reason, and even though they're not sure what's going on, they can just be there and just help me through it somehow, and support me as I continue to experience this, because I don't know when this is going to be over. I don't know if this is ever going to be over. I'm still in the healing process. I'm still experiencing things. If anything, nothing's really gone away. I've just learned more of, this new lifestyle, and symptoms are manifesting in different ways. So, there are good things that are coming out of this, and there are in different things to experience that are coming out of this. So thanks for watching this video, and give it a thumbs up and leave comments, please. I'm doing this video for myself in the healing process, for you who have PTSD or PTSD, and for someone who has a loved one with mental health disorders or PTSD, to, just watch my video as a real person going through this and experiencing some part of life that's different because of a sudden trauma. So I'm embracing my tattoos, which I really love. Survivor and the date. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.